I won't make it formal. By the Persian tradition, you go on a carpet, so you take off your shoes. It's okay. You won't feel it. First row, it's okay. So, hello, and thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. I'm a football referee also in Israel, in the top division. And usually when I come and there is a crowd, they used to throw things on me. So I hope it won't happen today. I'll do my best. I arrived from Israel. And Israel is known for many reasons. But today I will talk to you about entrepreneurship, about creating the ecosystem. I arrived to Cyprus 3 days ago. And the first one I meet at the airport is Yanis. Yanis is the taxi driver. And he comes to me, and there start the taxi driver conversation, which we all know. 40 minutes from the airport to Hilton Hotel, and the 40 minutes about economics, about the local football, and when I said I'm a football referee, it's like 30 minutes about football, and then about the political issues in Cyprus. I thought that we are not perfect. No one is perfect. I arrived to my hotel, and then I asked him a question. Yanis, please teach me one sentence. He said, okay, no problem. Then it took us 15 more minutes, which says, Iachi ine tu imisi tu pandos, which the beginning is more than 50% of the way. So we have a long way. I have 33 minutes, so I'll take it to our long way, and I will try to talk about the ecosystem. But before I will start, I have to ask you something sitting here in the crowd. How many of you sitting here today are willing to invest? Don't answer, don't raise your hands. Think about it. How many of you are willing to invest? Until the end of my talk, I hope that I will convince you guys to invest. So, entrepreneurial ecosystem. This is a typical Israeli family. 3 children, mom and dad. But why is it so typical? It's typical because it is an experiment, a cultural experiment. The beautiful lady on the right arrived from Libya. And the nice guy on the left arrived from Iran. It's kind of a mix which we cannot imagine how a lady from Libya and a guy from Iran could marry and create a family. And same as entrepreneurship, the results are unpredictable. We cannot predict what will happen. And the results is this guy, young guy, 13 years old. And actually it's me. And that's a picture from my bar mitzvah, when I turned 13 years old. And by the Jewish tradition, when you turn 13, you become a man. And you are responsible for your actions, same as entrepreneurship. It's bullshit. We have to understand that what we got 65 years ago, the conditions that we had, the lab that we are working in, the kitchen, was a very promising one. And I'm taking our doctor from the first talk. He said that it took him 40 years to find Israel. And we say as a joke that it took him 40 years because he was looking for the worst conditions. And he found Israel, the desert place, the neglected place. So he said, come on, I found it, come after me. And they all came to the desert. And they found also other natural resources, swamps, no agriculture. But what we really had is the Holy Land. So people thought that the money will come from the sky. No, even not the water. Why is it interesting us? Because guideline number 1, know the lab that you are working here. Here in Cyprus, in Israel, different condition. And in each lab you are working, there are different conditions that you have to think what they are, analyze them. The lab. And this was the lab in Israel 65 years ago. The first pioneers arrived to Israel to build a country. They didn't have a country. They arrived to Israel from different countries, started developing, developed. They created something. They didn't know, but they were the first entrepreneurs. They needed to create. And actually, when I say they needed, they didn't have any other option. They had to create. They didn't think about the next mobile app, location-based navigation app that they will use, Waze or something like that. They didn't think about those tablets, iPhone 5. They think about what they have, how do they take it, or what they don't have, how do they take it, and develop something. Develop state, country, education, and so on. We call them the first entrepreneurs. And same as entrepreneurs that I'm meeting today, daily, investors, they are very special because I know in the bottom of my heart that those who dare are creating our future. And as I said at the beginning, I know that once they started, the beginning is more than halfway. So I push them, I assist them. And this is Israel today. You will find a lot of R&D centers, the startup nation. But we think to ourselves, they didn't have any other option. So they created. What about us? Do we have any other option? We need to create. And that's Israel today. The second best place, the second best ecosystem in the world. How come? The second best place in the world to develop your startup. How come a country with 8 million people, the size of New Jersey, smaller than Belgium, is count to be the second best place? What are the ingredients that are in Israel? And how we can do it on other places? This is the answer. The camel. We like camels. Do you have camels here? Yes? No? I will bring some. But what's so unique with this camel? When you don't have, you create. So we create energy. We develop energy, solar panels on their back. That means that in the desert, when you don't have, it's what you have, you create out of it. That means that you need to have a creative energy. Your mind, not mine, but your mind. This is guideline number 2 we have today. So know the hub you're working here and be creative. So now you ask yourself, okay, we don't have camels, what do we do? Okay, there are 3 main ingredients. What are those? I'm asking you guys. What do we need? 1, academia, which is no drugs, it's academia, it's this one. The second one is governmental support. We need the decision makers to support, to push at the beginning. And we also need the support of the local and global industry, the private sector, that would be able to assist us, and we need to combine them together. The last 10 years, on the academia side, we have 6 Nobel winners of the prize. This is the last one, Dan Shechtman. He developed something which is related to the quasi-crystals. I have no clue what is he talking about, but it seems to be very important. And we have a lot of those. Academia is where we start entrepreneurship. It's very important. It's not the only thing we need, but it's very important. This is the beginning. The second thing is the governmental support. If our president, at his age, understands that Mark Zuckerberg is a very important person, and he opened his webpage and a Facebook profile, That means that in Israel, we understand that R&D and investing in programs that would be able to support us in the future as entrepreneurs is important for us. So if it comes from him, it goes through all the funnel. So decision makers be involved. And last but not least, the industry. Intel invested in more than 60 companies in Israel. IBM and Cisco are doing the same. And there are more than 250 multinational companies in Israel. And they are coming. Why? Why they are coming? They are coming because they are entrepreneurs, developing ventures. They are looking for those technology young persons, buying those companies and developing the R&D centers. So Intel, Apple, IBM, Google, and so on. Guideline number 3, the ingredients. So we had 3. We had the academia, we had the, help me, governmental support, and industry involvement. And there are 3 unique things in Israel. Israel is a multilingual country. There are people that arrive to Israel from more than 100 countries. So you will find a huge experiment, like my father, which is from Iran, and my mother is from Libya, and actually the results, the entrepreneurial results, which is me, is a disaster. But we have a lot of like me in Israel. Okay? So this is number 1, multilingual. The second is what we call in Israel the lean startup way, which means that when you don't have, you have to create. When you don't have, you create out of it. We call it the lean startup. And the last one is the chutzpah, is knocking on the doors, is not to be shy, is the social price we pay as entrepreneurs when we fail, because it's okay to try and fail, and do it again and again. So, fail. Someone smart says that necessity is mother of all inventions. Einstein. And actually, the Jewish mother, talking about mothers, 60 years ago, she wanted her son to become a lawyer. And 40 years ago, she wanted her son to become a doctor. These days, she wants her son to be an entrepreneur. This way, all the family will be rich. Though it's a long story, they don't know what they're talking about. And actually, being an entrepreneur is like this nice fish here, alone. I see that there are two, so we got a co-founder here. And the water is dehydrating every day, and you're alone, frustrated, working a lot. This is being an entrepreneur. It's not easy. And out of the necessity, we created. So we saw that we don't have water. We created one of the leading companies in the world, Netafim, which is dealing with drip irrigation, solving water problems in agriculture. So this is not having water. And this is having desert, solar panels. We create energy. And this is being treated from all over, isolated. So we created special army units that develop very smart geeks that then complete their army service and develop things for the civil life, for the civil industry, like Checkpoint, the leading internet security company in the world. So guideline number 4, what you have is what you don't have. This is very important to understand. What you don't have is what will save you. Being isolated, being small country, this is what will save you. No natural resources, this is what will save you. How do you take this challenge and make it an asset? How, if you are small, you think that less is more. If you are isolated, you don't, what we say, you act local, but you think global. And when you cannot knock on your neighbor's doors and ask for sugar or milk, you go abroad. A case study, SanDisk. How many of you are familiar with the company? All of us. All of us use the flash memory. So more than 20 years ago, A guy named Dov Moran, entrepreneur. Got out of the army. He developed something that is related to the chips and memory and those kind of things. Nice guy. He founded Tel Aviv University, academia, algorithms that are related to his company, to M Systems. So he came to the professor, Professor Litzin, that was his name, still his name. He came to him and he said, listen, it's interesting me what you're developing. He said, okay, let's work together. And they developed the flash memory and sold it to SanDisk. 2005, he sold more than $1 billion annual. 2006, he sold the company to SanDisk $1.5 billion. What it did in 2007, started a new venture. Loco. What do you need it? So he raised more than $20 million, invested from his pocket $5 million because he was rich after he sold the company. And guess what? He failed. He failed, he sold the IP, and year after he failed, what he did? Started a new venture. Motto, Comico. And accidentally, Sunday, after doing a research about this brilliant guy, I met him. I met him a week ago, and I told him, Dov, come. He said, hey, Oren, how are you? How is it going with StarTAU, your entrepreneurship center? I said, let's leave it aside. Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Don't you want to rest a little bit? And he said, why, Oren? And I explained, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. He said, Oren, this is my life philosophy. And I said, yeah, but you failed, and again, and you failed, and again. He said, this is the way I believe. Failing is part of the success. So, guideline number 5, fail. It's okay to fail. It's okay, it's part of the process. Remember those guys 65 years ago? They decided to build. They decided to create economy. Now I'm asking you guys again, are you willing to invest? Not only invest money, but invest your efforts, your connections, your time to develop stable economy that's based on entrepreneurship, on innovation. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, please invest, please fail. And I promise today that I will do something to convince you to fail. And I'm asking you, who is willing to fail with me and to try to invest today? Who is willing to take the risk? I'm asking you guys. Who is willing? Be brave. I'm looking for brave guys. I am not afraid to fail, and I came here to change the way you think, because I am what we call in Israel a chutzpan. I'm coming with my chutzpah, and I am a failure. So I'm looking for the one who is willing to fail. You. Thank you very much. Enjoy.